Hunting Ground, or Demento if you're Japanese, is a game that was developed and published by Capcom, and it was, for some reason, released just a couple of months before Resident Evil 4. You can guess which one got the biggest fanfare. And unless you have more than $200 laying around or you want to deal with the complexity of emulation, you are never going to play it. But don't worry, because in this video I will explain it as fast as possible. So let's start. In Hunting Ground you will play as Fiona Belli, a girl who for some reason is unconscious inside a locked cage where a big weird humanoid looking creature tries to touch her feet, but gets scared by some lighting outside. So he runs away and Fiona, thanks to the commotion and a nightmare, wakes up. Luckily for her, the cage is unlocked. So she gets out of it, and like any other human being that wakes up inside a cage surrounded by torturing devices, blood and raw meat, she tries to look for a way out. But while doing so, she gets jump scared by a feral dog that drops a tag with the name Huey written on it. Fiona then is able to find an exit, and after exploring the yard she's in for a little bit, she gets inside the only locked room of the place, where she is surprised by a woman who has a maid outfit, who tells her that there's some clothes for her on the bed. And then she tries to leave, but since she's the only person around there, Fiona stops her and asks her where they are and how she arrived there. However, the maid doesn't seem to care about these questions, and instead of answering Fiona, she looks at a painting of an old man who she calls Master and tells it that she is going to make her very comfortable. Fiona doesn't get why she does that, but before she can say something, she gets a flashback and the maid goes away. Alone again, Fiona changes into her new clothes because she doesn't want to be walking around almost naked, but she can't help but notice that the clothes fit perfectly. A little bit too perfectly, and she also has this weird feeling that someone is watching her. But whatever, the important thing is that she is now very comfortable. So she keeps exploring the place, and after finding some blood in a pillar, she enters some kind of study room where she finds a locked drawer, some books, and a chalkboard that has something written about how luminescents are attracted to acid. Fiona doesn't really understand what any of this means, so she keeps walking around, but she is startled when a doll gets thrown across the hallway by the creature that wanted to touch her feet, and while trying to pick up his doll, he notices her standing still. So he starts comparing them, and yeah, he much rather have Fiona. Fiona is able to escape from him, and after dealing with a golem that is covering a door, she arrives at a room where she finds a key. She, of course, tries to grab it, but is interrupted when a disembodied voice tells her to check out what's beneath the cloth in front of her. Fiona does it, and it turns out to be a sculpture of a pregnant girl. The voice then tells her that that's her future, that she will be his, and that she should touch it. And then he starts laughing manically. Fiona, a little bit scared from what just happened, grabs the key and uses it to open another door. However, a tiny little light starts following her, like it knows she is there. So she closes the door just in case. Here, Fiona reaches the kitchen where she gets surprised and chased again by the creature. Thank God, a man tells the creature, whose name turns out to be the Leodese, to stop. So he does, and Fiona and the man exchange some words. About how his name is Ricardo, how he is the keeper of the castle, how her parents Ugo and Alia Belli had an accident, and how she has now become the sole heir of the Belli castle. So Fiona gets another flashback and faints out. She then wakes up from a nightmare wishing that nothing of that was real, but her drama is cut short when she hears a howling outside. So she goes to check it out and turns out to be a little doggy that has been captured next to a tree. She obviously helps him, and the pupper gratefully looks back at her and goes away. And after trying and failing to reach something that is on the top of some rubble, she comes across the entrance of the castle, which is locked. And since there's nowhere else to go, she goes back to the bedroom, where once again, the Leodese tries to get her. However, luckily for Fiona, the pooch saves her and makes the Leodese run away. They bond for a moment and Fiona realizes that it's the same dog that scared her in the torture chamber, whose name is Huey. They become kind of friends and explore the mansion for a little bit until Fiona arrives at the kitchen where the maid is cooking something. and this surprises Fiona because... Anyways, thanks to this partnership, both of them are able to access another part of the mansion, where Fiona receives a call from someone who tells her to pay attention and to be wary of Ricardo and something about her asset. But she can hear that part because the phone cuts out and the Leodese, again, tries to catch her. After escaping from him and entering some weird rooms, coming across some fake doors, finding a cabin with a doll altar that the Leodese seems to love, and finding a key for the locked drawer, Fiona goes back to open the drawer, where she finds a lunar refractor. But she also hears some smacking going on behind a door, so she tries to see what's up, and what she sees will leave you speechless. Here, Fiona is able to see Ricardo hitting the maid after asking her where's the old man. He also speaks to the nothingness and says that he won't let him touch her, since the asset is his. But that's not the weirdest part, because the maid, after all that abuse, just smiles and kind of looks at Fiona through the keyhole, which scares her. Fiona then keeps walking around the mansion a little bit more until she comes across a wall with some square holes where a voice gets her attention. And after Fiona sticks her hand inside one of the holes, a hand grabs her and gives her a note that talks about how Ricardo has sealed off the main gate and that her only chance is to go to an old mansion that is beyond the castle, that she can access with a key that is in a secret chapel that is only accessible after shining some lunar light in the right spot. The note also says that his only intent is for her to be free, and it's signed by someone named Lorenzo. But whatever, the point is that, thanks to this, she is able to find the chapel where Fiona has to face off against the Leodese. She obviously comes out victorious and goes to the door that will take her to the old mansion. But before she can use the key, the maid stops her and, in a very unusual way, tells Fiona that dinner is served. So they go to the dinner table, where the maid tells Fiona that she was created as the perfect woman, but without feelings. Fiona doesn't really care about it and goes away, while the maid tastes her own food and says that she isn't complete. And I guess it was really bad because Fiona, who also ate that food, doesn't feel so good. Because of this, she goes to rest for a little bit, but wakes up in a hurry after the maid starts touching her in a very weird way. She tells Fiona that she is incomplete, and then she starts banging her head against a window, and after breaking it, she gets a piece of glass, kisses it, and starts chasing Fiona. After escaping her, Fiona goes back to the door she was going to open before being interrupted, where she encounters the maid once again, who is just cleaning as nothing has happened. But after opening the door, she starts getting chased again. But the maid stops when she comes across a mirror where she sees her reflection and starts screaming. Fiona, confused by this, keeps with her exploration and ends up in some kind of museum-looking place filled with doors that lead to nowhere, a mummy, and a secret passage that she opens thanks to one of those moving lights, which takes her even deeper. Like, really deep. Oh, and the maid is also here. So... Fiona then comes across a room with a three-headed dragon sculpture, where she finds a torn letter that seems to be from Lorenzo that explains to her that in order to find the way, she needs to speak the proper words to the dragon, which are the name of a spiritual essence. Here, she also finds a film reel, and after finding out what the words are, with the help of Huey, she is able to activate something that makes the fire freeze? And thanks to this, she reaches some kind of secret library that has a lot of old books and a lot of old journals that talk about how he has summoned a renowned master alchemist to the castle, how he has heard that the count has used the dry method to have eternal life, how he will research more about it with the help of the Lord, how there's no side effects to the dry method, how there's no apparent aging even though the Lord is physically a mess, how he, unlike the Lord, has time to keep researching, how the dry method is not enough for him, how he needs meets the Azad, how he doesn't care about the dry method anymore, and how he and his followers free the spirit of the Lord's body after breaking the bond. The weird thing is that each one of these is dated at least 20 years apart from each other, which will mean that there were multiple people writing on them. Right? It couldn't have been a man that has lived for more or less 200 years. Right? Here, Fiona also finds the Jupiter key, which she uses to enter two rooms that are very similar to one another. Except that in one of them, she comes across the maid who now has a spike, and in the other one, she comes across some touchable things which make something move. Thanks to this, Fiona is able to access a bunch of new places, like the room where the maid is just cleaning like nothing is wrong, where she gives Fiona a perfume and calls her a little filthy princess, another room that takes her to a yard/cemetery that has a mausoleum with a weird hand coming from the dark and some tombstones with the same name of Leodese Belli but with different dates, and also another room filled with torturing devices. You have your still lady, your electric chair, your hanging cell, your stretcher, the hits. But there's also a human who has a key around his neck. So Fiona tries to grab it. So Fiona breaks the bond between his body and his spirit and gets the Venus key, which she uses to enter some kind of garden that is filled with a bunch of mandragoras. Here, she reads that they were created to get the large quantities of blood needed for the grand process, but there's only one real mandragora. So, with the help of Huey's nose and the perfume, she gets it and takes it to the hand of the mausoleum, who seems to like it so much that lets her pass. And after making a golem open even more places, finding some kind of child being burned alive inside an oven, entering weird rooms, finding a locked door, and coming across more humanoid creatures, she makes it to some kind of aquarium with weird fish that takes her to another library, where she finds a bunch of books and a room with a projector, where she plays a film. Thanks to it, she realizes that someone has actually been watching her since she arrived, and that the code for a locked door isn't that hard. But once the film ends, the maid, who has been hiding behind the screen all this time, appears and starts teasing Fiona. So Fiona asks her what she wants, and the maid tells her that she wants the Asath, the essence of life, the essence of woman. And then she goes nuts. Fiona reaches the second floor of the library, where she admires the ceiling for some reason, and because of this, she gets cornered by the maid, who has definitely lost it. But before she can do anything to Fiona, Huey is able to subdue her, but not really, and she starts calling Fiona precious little princess and tells her that she lures men with her filthy body. And after some crazy laughs and some eye bleeding, Fiona fights her. And she defeats her with a mirror that is on the floor, that makes the maid so mad that she screams, and that scream makes the glass ceiling shatter and impale her. The maid just smiles and finally stops being a threat. So Fiona loots the body, and after exploring for a little bit, she enters a room with a human test tube that has a human inside, where Ricardo surprises Fiona and asks her to go with him. Fiona doesn't want to, so Ricardo takes out a gun. Obviously, Fiona runs away, while Ricardo calls her a wench and says that the Asath was wasted on her. After escaping, Fiona finds a statue that is holding a scale and a big door that says that only someone that can forge the Godstone is going to be able to open it. So Fiona keeps exploring the place until she arrives at a room that seems to be corroding away, where she finds a hole in the wall, some alchemist-looking devices, and a note that talks about how a dog ran off with the prima materia that he was going to use to make the Godstone, and how he doesn't need it anymore since he is going to get something even better. The Asath. Fiona puts two and two together and realizes that the dog that the note talks about is Huey. So she sends him inside the hole, and with his help, she is able to access a locked room, which takes her to the other side of the cemetery/yard, where there's even more tombstones with the name of Leodese Belli written on them. But there's also the prima materia that was mentioned in the note. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that since she arrived at that part of the place, Fiona has been coming across weird-looking machines that are used for different things, like a synthesizer, a decomposer, an extractor, a transmuter, and a purifier. And with this, she is able to transform the prima materia into the Godstone, which she uses to open the door. Thanks to this, she reaches some kind of forest where Huey gets shot. And while looking for him, Fiona is able to see a tower in the center of the lake before getting cornered by Ricardo, who tells her that he is chasing her because she inherited his father's asset, and that asset belongs to them, and that he holds valuable information that he and her father. And then he starts laughing. This conversation makes Fiona have a flashback of the accident, where she witnessed how her mother died from the crash, how her father was stabbed by a mysterious figure, and how this mysterious figure was Ricardo. So she passes out, and Ricardo tells her that she is going to give birth to him all over again, and takes her away. Once Ricardo checks if she is ovulating, Fiona wakes up inside a cell, where she is able to get out thanks to Huey. She also finds a note from Lorenzo who tells her that she is in the water tower, and in order to get out of there, she has to create an exit using the Magisterium so she can get to the House of Truth, where he is residing. He also tells her that if it wasn't because of his useless body, he will date her. But whatever, the point is that while exploring the place, she comes across Ricardo once again. But this time, something seems different, because even though he's speaking, Fiona can't see him. He tells her that that's because he put something in her eyes, and that she is his, and that he owns her, and then he starts chasing her. After finding a miniature wooden bridge and evading Ricardo and some luminescence, Fiona reaches the top of the tower, where with the help of Huey...
God damn it, Huey! God damn it, Huey! God damn it! Stop moving, Huey! Please stop moving! Stop!
She is able to access the actual top floor of the tower, where she uses the bridge she found, which makes an actual bridge come out from the water and connects the tower to the other building. However, Ricardo locks the exit and tells her to let him into her womb.
No means no.
Fiona, now without anything else to do there, goes to the bridge, while an old man crawls to Ricardo's body, calls him incomplete, and takes his... asset? Once in the bridge, Fiona takes a look at the dead body and realizes that he didn't take care of his skin. She then arrives at the other building, which is very weird, and where she finally meets Lorenzo, who turns out to be actually Aurelius Lorenzo Belli, the same old man who took the asset from Ricardo. Of course, he wasn't really trying to help Fiona, and after explaining to her that he created Ricardo and Hugo, but Hugo was taken away by her wench of a mother, Ayla, he starts chasing her. Thank God, Fiona is able to stop him with an explosion, and then by crushing him. Alone again, Fiona keeps exploring the place and finds an engraved door that seems important, but can't be opened. However, her loneliness doesn't last, because she gets locked inside a room where a younger-sounding Lorenzo teases her and tells her to go to him. And since she doesn't have anywhere else to go, she does. Lorenzo then tells her about how the original Aurelius Belli said that the great truth is the most valuable thing, how human life is not able to grasp it, and how they must dedicate their lives to it. And after Fiona witnesses how a now middle-aged Lorenzo transforms into an even younger version of himself in front of her and tells her how thanks to the asset they can live forever, like all of the other people she has met, he goes nuts. Fiona then enters a bunch of weird rooms that keep getting weirder and weirder before she arrives at a somewhat normal room where there's a big hole filled with lava in the middle of it and some kind of altar that has a missing object. And since Huey is able to pick a scent, they start looking around. They then find a cane hidden behind a wall, which opens after Fiona's back gets marked. And with this cane, Fiona activates some kind of mechanism that makes the place light up, which also makes the engraved door shine? But this also raises the lava of the hole and gets the attention of Lorenzo. And since there's only one door... After Lorenzo falls into the lava pit, Fiona decides that it's time to get out. So she does. But goddamn, that son of a bitch Lorenzo is still somehow alive. And even worse, the place is having tremors. So Fiona runs for her life, and she makes it. Or not, because Lorenzo catches up to her and tries to stop her from leaving. Thank God, his body can't resist that much burning. So he finally dies, and Fiona is able to. Oh no, wait, he's still alive. Oh, okay, not anymore. Fiona is able to escape. But since this game has different endings. If Fiona defeats the Bilitas by dropping the chandelier on him and treats Huey right, then Fiona will be seen opening the castle's main gate, where Huey alerts her of the Bilitas' presence, and after a staring contest, Huey and Fiona get out of there, and the Bilitas start streaming the plants. But if Fiona kills the Bilitas, then the same will happen, except that the Bilitas won't be there, for obvious reasons. Now, if after defeating the Bilitas, Fiona goes to his cabin, he will give her a key that Fiona can use in the restroom that is next to the kitchen, where she will find a secret room that has another key that Fiona can use to open the main gate. And if she does, then the same thing of the other endings kind of happens, but in a last scene, we will be able to see Lorenzo trying and failing to catch up to Fiona, while pleading for her not to go, since she is his life, his asset. And if Fiona treats Huey really bad and she also doesn't aid him after he gets shot in the forest, then Huey won't rescue Fiona, and she will instead wake up inside some kind of experimental cube where Ricardo will tell her that he will use her womb to reborn again, but this time with her asset. And in a last scene, we will be able to see Fiona sleeping on a chair, where after Ricardo caresses her face and her batonkas, she will wake up and start laughing, while the camera pans out, revealing that she is pregnant.